to see if I've started to pull myself out of my spiral. I haven't. I'm spiraling tremendously. So go away. Come check back in a year or two. Oh my God, it made news. That's how bored you people are. It made news that we went out. We went to an activity. No, they can't go to an activity. They have to sit inside and eat cereal and count the squares on the Chex Mix like I do. You gotta calm down there, homie. Are you good? You gotta calm down. Like, it's not your job to police everybody else's lives. It really isn't.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody? Today I want to talk about Nick Rekieta, the king of LawTube. Is he the new Ruby Franke? Now, if you haven't been following this, Nick Rekieta is probably the biggest LawTuber. If you don't know what a LawTuber is, someone who talks about true crime in general, and they're a lawyer on YouTube. Nick Rekieta is a civil lawyer from Minnesota. He didn't really practice civil law for any lengthy period of time, from what I understand. And he really got very big during the Rittenhouse trial, and then in the civil Depp v. Heard trial. And in addition to talking about these cases, he elevated the YouTube careers of Uncivil Law, Legal Bites, a lot of the Emily D. Baker, a lot of the LawTubers that are so well known on YouTube now were featured first before they became big on his channel. And I want to talk about it because I've been talking a lot about experts and innocence fraud, and something I used to fall for a lot. We see someone's a lawyer, we take their opinion, put extra weight in their opinion, not considering that really, if they were really such an excellent lawyer, why would they be on YouTube? And even if they were, the law is meant to be understood. That's why we have a jury system, by the common person. And they really have no, besides an understanding of the law, they don't really, their opinions about cases while watching trials, I don't think should hold any special weight. So Nick Rekieta on May 24th, people have been noticing his streams. You know, he was also so in addition to getting $1 million in super chats, he was known for drinking on the air, extremely long live streams where he would drink and answer super chats, what seems like endless amount of energy and time, and would drink through these. So on May 24th, people have been noticing his streams getting progressively weirder, including the stream you saw in the opening, where he appears to be having a private, self-pleasuring moment on and not knowing that the camera's on, and very drunk. And people were very concerned about his 5 kids who he, with his wife Kayla, homeschools, and their whereabouts while all this is going on. But it really wasn't until his church folks, we know now from the documents, were getting complaints from different people about how thin and basically strung out Kayla, his wife Kayla, and he both looked. When he was arrested, spoiler alert, they found sores on his arms. And the person at church was a mandatory reporter, meaning they have to report instances where they think children are in danger. And they did. So May 24th, law enforcement basically raids his home. Okay, so let's get into that element of it. And I'm going to read from a little bit of the documents. Hold on one second, guys. I have so many screens open. You have no idea. Okay. Here we go. So on May 16th, the sheriff's office, Dave Nestor, received a report regarding possible child neglect and controlled substance use. The reporter indicated that Nicholas Robert Rekieta, name his date of birth, resides at blah, blah, blah. He resides at this residence with his wife, Kayla, and their 5 children, ages 6 to 16, excuse me. The reporter indicated that 4 people from their church had gone to him reporting neglect to the children, possible controlled substance use, and a questionable relationship with an additional couple. It was reported that Nicholas is a social media blogger, and he and his wife Kayla had befriended hosts from a different local social media blogger. These individuals were identified as Aaron Michael Imholt and April Diane Imholt. Is that affiliate? Sorry. Affiant? I don't know what that is. Knows personally. These are personalities of the Steel Toe Morning Show, which used to be in St. Cloud, Minnesota radio. However, as of recent years, the show has been a social media entertainment show, strictly online based. It was reported that the Imholts may have been staying with the Rikietas, and the home was in disarray and cluttered. Now, Aaron left. So now, even today, it's April, Kayla, and Nick. And he said that this is an understatement with how dirty the house and cluttered the house was. It was the home was in disarray and cluttered. It was reported from a church preschool teacher that the children had complained. So pay attention for those in the back. This is the key part. That the children had complained of being hungry, not fed, and wearing the same clothes for 3 or 4 days at a time. Nicholas was reported to being both being lethargic and appeared high or drugged, driving a car around. And he got frequent, what also came out is his frequent speeding, reckless driving tickets. And it sounded like he was about to pick his child up in one, and it sounded like he might have had his child in the car in another. Correct me if I'm wrong. Another individual, like 3 or 4 tickets. Another individual advised that the reported that Nicholas will walk out randomly during sermons at church and have noticed behavioral changes in him. It was alleged Kayla looks anorexic, and Nicholas has lost a substantial amount of weight recently. One individual describes Nicholas as having marks on his arm that they thought might be from injections. The reporter reiterated concerns for possible neglect and or controlled substance use within the home. So that will give you an idea. And when they finally did get in, they found a very dirty home. They found over 25 grams. I believe it was 26.6 grams of coke. They found ketamine. They found a gun under his bed and all sorts of different kinds of paraphernalia, including a scale, credit cards, different baggies of drugs scattered throughout the bedroom. And so Aaron, who from Steel Toe, who left, has been giving interviews and said that the drug use, he saw the drug use, he took part in the drug use at times, and that Nick is a frequent user of coke and in April and Kayla, and that the kids were often neglected and he would feed them. He sort of puts himself out as the hero of the story, cleaning and feeding the kids and wanting to do things whereas Nick and April and Kayla kind of just want to stay in. He's an unreliable narrator. I think even he would agree with that. But so Nick was arrested, Kayla was arrested, April was arrested and then let go. They're charged with child neglect, possession of a controlled substance over 25 grams, and weapons possession. And he's facing 25 years in prison. So I wanted to talk about this because not only was he on the Karen Reed innocence fraud side of the story, his whole narrative is a very libertarian narrative that the government is big, bad, that they're wrongfully convicting people left and right, that they'll lie to you left and right. It's overwhelming, very much the kind of that it's the criminals really aren't criminals. It's the government that are criminals. And he's continuing on this narrative. He was on to the Free Karen Reed. He's been threatening to come back to Karen Reed. April of 2023, May of 2023, he had Aidan Carney on his show under the header, The Crazy Case of Karen Reed, falsely accused of murder with Lauren De Laguna, and also another innocence fraudster who's trying to exonerate and free Karen Reed on this crazy conspiracy theory that Karen Reed is really spearheading herself. He's very much, in my view, in the line of another Aidan Carney, very superficially charming, like so many people with personality disorders are, and lies with ease, and is really very manipulative and cunning, and is perfect for YouTube because he's willing to say everything. He knows what to say to bring in the big bucks. He knows how to kind of snake charm the money out of his audience. And I think these personalities really need to be brought to light. And I know these are not the kind of, I turned off the ads and I think they'll stay off on YouTube because these are the kind of videos that YouTube doesn't encourage you making, but I really think it's important to talk about. So let us get into, so since this, I really buried the lead here. Since he's been arrested, what's come out that is that his 8-year-old, she turned 9, all the kids are in foster care, under the care of the state of Minnesota, and they're basically CPS care. I think it's called something else. the 8-year-old, who was 8 years old, daughter, who was 8 years old at the time, has tested positive for cocaine, and not positive on the kind like, oh, she might have touched it once, or she might have gotten into it thinking it was something else once. It was off the charts for cocaine. It's really, I know it's blurry. This was a terrible document to read, but I'm placing it on the screen. After being placed out of the home, the children were all subjected to hair follicle drug testing. All the children except tested negative, except to tested positive at a level over 5,000. So to give you an idea of what that means that she would have to have been exposed to it on a daily or weekend use at the minimum. This is so off the charts. And of course, Nick Rekieta is saying the test is wrong. He doesn't know how it happened. He's baffled, but he may have an idea how it happened. And we're going to listen to his take on what happened here. And he's just can't stay off social media. They've done nothing to get their kids back. They posted bond in a way that they don't have to take drug tests, and they're refusing them, and they have not been working to get their kids back, doing the things that they would do. In the meantime, he has found time to be on social media, and he can't talk about his case except when he can talk about his case. So he really can't keep his mouth shut about his case. He just will go on to read the Bible, and then we'll get trolled a bit, and then we'll just like break down and start talking about the case. And I think what people are really getting wrong is like, oh, this is a nice guy under just a nice guy who just it's just the drugs. It's just the drugs, guys. It's just the alcohol. And what I'm saying here is he had the money. If he wanted to do all the drugs he wanted, he could have farmed out his Christian fatherly duties to a nanny or a couple nannies, a chef, someone who would change his kids every day, drive them around. He could have hired a chauffeur if he wanted to. But of course, when you're using drugs, you're always afraid that your lifestyle is going to be exposed and someone's going to call you in for it. So who could he trust to hire? So, but instead of maybe writing a non-disclosure agreement or putting his kids as the priority, he neglected his kids. And you can see him on streams where he's like, what do you want? What do you want? Like bothered by their needs. Neglected his kids. And in one case, people are saying, oh, she just must have gotten into it. Really gotten into it daily or just every weekend she seemed to somehow get into it? An 8-year-old? How would an 8-year-old, unless you're saying this is a precocious 8-year-old who knows how to do coke somehow? There are only two, I mean, in my view, two answers to this. Either he had to be giving it to her. And for either, my view, one of two reasons. Either he wanted to create some kind of bond for really dark purposes, for some kind of sexual grooming. You talk to, purposes, or he thought that, oh, it will help her ADHD. But it really only works for what, like an hour to hour and a half? What about the rest of the hour? So that doesn't even make sense to me. Or some kind of really twisted bonding parenthood where he's going to bond with I understand this was his favorite daughter, or some people have speculated by the way that he talked about this daughter, that this was his favorite daughter, that this was a way to bond. But we know that he is sexually, I would call him sexually perverse or perverted. I don't know. Maybe he would even agree with that. I mean, you bring in a whole other couple. You're all sleeping 4 to a bed when you have 5 kids, all under the age of 16, living in the house. And they would come into the bedroom and ask for things and see them all laying in the bed together. I mean, he put his needs in front of the kids. You can't say that isn't so. And if this were just a symptom of drug use, we'd see this all the time. This is so off the charts. And he had the money to be more functional and to be a better parent, and didn't utilize his $1 million in super chats to save his kids. So let's look at what he says here. This is from Camelot 331 and the channel Elisa Clips, who's been doing a really good job clipping clips of Nick Rekieta burying himself basically in social media. Now, if this were just a drug case, if he just had a lot of drugs, people are saying he will get no time. If this were just a drug case, I would say, yeah, maybe he'd get no time. But it's also a gun case and a child endangerment case. And I think he is facing some real prison time here. Whether it's a year, 2 years, 6 months, I can't imagine with these charges if he gets convicted of them. Of course, he hasn't been convicted of them. He says it's all a big government conspiracy, that we're not getting the real facts. Although he says all the documents, although he's verified that the documents are real. So I'm not exactly sure where he's going with this defense, but take a listen here.
And I don't get the Rekieta hate. Y'all acting like he gave his kid Coke or something. Oh, shit. Wait, bad joke.
It's again, people who think that an 8-year-old was sitting there railing lines of Coke you're insane. Like the amount of, first of all, if they thought that was happening, I wouldn't be able to be on the show.
That's not true. You bailed out. You have a child endangerment charge. Your kids have not been returned to you. Yeah, if your kid was still in the room, if your kid was still in the home, you wouldn't be talking. But this is patently false. And you notice that there's no anger or sadness. He's sort of laughing along with it. This is this kind of superficial charm that narcissistic sociopaths have.
We'd be talking about way different charges going on here. Like that, those would be leveled. Those aren't even allegations by the government. The government doesn't even say that. Second of all, there probably would have been a funeral. Children doing drugs is not like adults doing drugs. And those test results are fucking terrifying. So I know that, like, for some people it's a funny joke. For me, it's not that funny because it's like, when we heard this result, we were fucking dumbstruck. We're baffled. We're like, and I flat out.
Was he terrified when he heard the result, or was he just dumbfounded? So the words are right, but the tune isn't matching the lyrics right here. It's very off. And was he dumbfounded or was he terrified? And if you think that an 8-year-old is railing lines, well, if she's taught how to do it and she's offered it by someone she trusts, like her parent, otherwise, is he saying that no 8-year-old has ever done drugs? Because the stories are out there. The stories are out there of parents feeding their kids drugs, sadly. If this was so unbelievable, we wouldn't have any stories of people who lived to tell the tale and talked about how damaging it was and how it messed up the rest of their life. But according to Nick Rekieta, this is just a miracle. This test is just a miracle test, an anomaly that she went off the charts for it. I think at one other time he suggested it was something else. It was some kind of liquid that they tested with. Isn't it odd that it didn't come back for any other drug? Not marijuana, not even ketamine, which was also found in the home. Not opiates. No, just the thing that they found 26 grams plus of in your home, Nick Rekieta. What a strange coincidence. He thinks we're all stupid.
I said that's a fucking impossible result. That's an impossible result. And at some point, I'll get to tell you guys how the state reacted to that statement and the things that we demanded the state do, and the state's response to those things should actually make people really fucking angry with the state.
The state is like, yeah, you have to do drug tests to get your kids back and clean up your home and make it and show that you're capable of taking care of your kids before we're going to give them back. I don't know who would be horrendously upset by that. If you are, you maybe need your head examined.
But that's not a thing that like goes on. And when you put children, our children were out in the community with various teachers and various instructors and music instructors, class teachers, various church events. No one had any reported behavior of our children acting erratically or in any concerning way that would imply that at all. And our kids are all fucking...
Well, they were concerned for your kids because they were complaining of being hungry and they were in the same clothes for 3 and 4 days at a time. The people at church were concerned. My understanding is he homeschools his kids. And so are you suggesting that you gave your daughter cocaine and took her right to church? I mean, that last, I don't know, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour and a half maximum. I mean, it sort of peaks at 20 minutes. We're supposed to believe that you sped her to church for everybody to see. This is absurd. This is a lawyer trying to cover his ass.
Literally picture perfect health. They're all above average height and weight. They're all of their levels are healthy. The state is having trouble reconciling this test with the reality before them. And
Right.
that's part of the issue. But again,
No, you're having trouble reconciling your fake online persona with the truth coming out, with the horrifying truth coming out about your home life. That's what you're having a hard time doing. You're having a hard time selling yourself as a Christian family man now that this has come out. And speaking of being average height and weight, that was one of the things that tipped off the people at church was your emaciated frame and your wife's emaciated frame. We're not. No one's accusing you of giving your child Coke 24/7, 7 days a week. It's either daily, on maybe 1 or 2 occasions, or on the weekends. That's the level we're talking about here. Consistently, but not hourly. If that makes sense?
none of that part of the story gets told, especially when documents that really shouldn't be leaked due to laws in Minnesota get leaked. That's something where only part of the story comes out, and then people are basing it off of that. But anybody who thinks that there's an 8-year-old just sitting around huffing down lines of cocaine with no adverse effects, with no reports of concerning behavior, with no reports of withdrawal symptoms or anything like that,
Who was supposed to observe these adverse effects? Were you supposed to observe them when you were live streaming endlessly? You were supposed to observe your daughter's adverse effects. No one was observing your children. That's why you have a child neglect charge. What are we talking about here? And no one, I'm certainly not saying that your daughter did this on her own, that she was so precocious, that she found your stash and knew how to do it and started doing it every weekend at 8 years old. I'm saying you gave it to her. For what reasons? Only you know. But the Nick Rekieta story keeps getting darker and darker and darker. So excuse me for going there. This is absurd. No one noticed.
I'm sorry, your worldview is skewed. But if that had been an accusation of the government,
That's a little projection there. Your worldview is skewed. Your worldview is skewed, certainly.
we would be under very, very different. Because I'd be broadcasting from fucking shackles, guys. Like, that's not happening.
Yeah,
It never did.
That's kind of what I was thinking after because the first day when I read it, everybody was speculating, including me. And was there ever like a thought, like when you saw the result, was there ever a thought, just like a stem thought somewhere where you're like, holy shit, somebody may have tried to do something and I didn't know about it?
Oh, is there a possibility that someone else came into contact with my child with drugs? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. And
Was it a possibility, or were you dumbfounded? Did you have excuse me, some idea? Or did you have no idea at all and were completely dumbfounded? Which was it, Nick Rekieta? And this host, Camelot 331. I mean, are you just trying to get Nick to keep talking? Or do you really feel like, oh, yeah, you should be in shackles? Yeah, no, he's out on $50,000 bail. He was in shackles, locked up, if that's what if you're gonna, everything's so exaggerated. I'd be in the shackles. I'd be in a chain gang, guys, now, if any of this were true. It's so exaggerated to make it look ridiculous, to make these charges look ridiculous instead of horrifying, which is what they are.
Can happen in nefarious or non-nefarious ways. But yes, that's absolutely possible. But what I know is that my child wasn't doing drugs. I know that because there's no behavioral signs. There's nothing like that. There's no adverse health effects. None of that is going on at all.
Is that what you told yourself when you gave her drugs, that there were no bad signs and there were no adverse health effects? Is that the cope that you told yourself?
And it's why when the test result came back, we said, this is fucking impossible. Like, literally, this is not a possible result. Something's wrong. We don't know if there's an issue with the lab. We don't know if there was some sort of external contamination by someone else. We have no fucking idea. But we know what wasn't happening. And yeah, is there a worry that someone else may have done something either nefariously or something like that? Yeah, absolutely. Of course. We want to know too. It's just, the question is, we don't know how to find out. And we're on a timeline where we haven't had the opportunity to even investigate it.
Right. He hasn't had the opportunity because he's busy live streaming. Guys, he hasn't had the time to get it back because he's been so busy live streaming. He doesn't know how to get the kids. Being a lawyer, he doesn't know how to get his kids back. Maybe the suggestions of the state to start taking the drug test would be a first step. And he really wants to investigate it. But instead of investigating it, he went back home and went right back on the internet and started live streaming. That was his search for his kids, his finding answers. I mean, if you believe, and people are buying this. People are buying this like, oh, he needs an intervention, guys. He needs an intervention. It's just the drugs. He's a good guy. who got bad drugs, turned bad drugs. That were the case, everybody who had a drug problem would be having these problems with their kids, be accused of child neglect in this way. And some are. But in this extreme way, with an extremely messy home, with guns under the bed, guns in the garage. This is just over the top. I mean, he thinks we're all stupid. And I sense this with Rekieta. I sense this, that he was an untrustworthy, dark personality. But had I said this in the beginning out loud, everyone would have jumped on me. He was so beloved. I don't think people are getting how beloved and revered he was. And even in the beginning when this came out, people like Uncivil Law were still trying, and some people still are, like Good Logic, who I sat near, talked to at the Maxwell trial almost every day. Joe from Good Logic, he's still making excuses like 6-year-olds should really wash themselves. They don't need anyone to tend to them. They don't need a father. I mean, I mean, I don't know who's more disgusting, Nick Rekieta or the people making excuses for him. But this one was really this live stream where he came on to read the Bible, to proselytize to us from the Bible, was really something. But he got so derailed. This is, again, Alyssa Clips. Thank you, Alyssa Clips, for keeping such an excellent record of Nick Rekieta's ridiculous arguments and online presence since this. Hold on one sec.
Like they like have this idea of how life is going for me, and it's amazing to read because it's like I'm kicked out of my house, getting divorced, never getting my kids back, all that stuff. It's like, all right, I guess. Really, like, kind of life just goes on, and you do what you have to do, each day, and then you.
How outrageous for people to speculate that the man who hasn't really done anything to get his kids back, or even find out what happened with his 9-year-old daughter. Why, as an 8-year-old, someone was regularly feeding her cocaine? Why live streaming is the priority? Imagine those people saying, he'll never get his kids back. Imagine that. What an outrageous take.
Like, that's how it goes. There's not much else to say. You just do life, and you have to do it at the speed of everybody else. Sometimes, in my case, of course, it's at the speed of government. But things are coming to a head at some point here. My days are weird because it's like, even when I have time, I have to be really in the mood to stream, because if you're not in the mood or if I'm not in the mood to stream right now, it's because I'm like sad or whatever. And I don't want to get in which book is about not taking your side piece to get tattoos. Oh no, it's the activity police. He doesn't do something that I wouldn't do. All right. Have fun, homie. Good Lord. Again, your fun, like, judgment or whatever is based probably on a misperception of something.
Right. How dare we have a moral judgment that neglecting your kids and child abuse is wrong? How dare we morally judge him when his 9-year-old daughter comes back with a sky-high hair cocaine test? or a drug test, hair drug test, sky high for cocaine, better put. How dare us? How puritanical of us to judge. You know, if you want to have any kind of arrangement with your wife and swing and whatever invite a couple to live with you, don't do it in front of your kids. It's not healthy for your kids. It's confusing. It's abusive. Call me an old-fashioned moralist. But those are the kind of things that single people can do who aren't damaging young people, your children. So, I mean, he's like, it's you. It's all you who are being so judgmental. You're the problem. How dare you judge me? Yeah, nobody's yeah, I guess we are judging you. I would say that you're a pretty crap person. Person who does this is a pretty crap person. Doesn't make sure that your kids are clothed and fed, and makes your online personality the priority when you have plenty of money
that you've concocted in your mind, and now you can rail against it. That's fine. But it's always funny to watch for me, because it's like watching people be scrambled when they find out the next piece of information. They're like, but this doesn't match up. No, this isn't. No, you can't be this way. You can't do this thing like that. No, I had it in my brain a certain way. It's got to be this way. Otherwise.
Yeah, we had it in our brain that you should be a good father to your kids and not starve and drug your kids. Imagine us. Wild. We had it in our minds that you should be a good father and make taking care of your kids the priority. Imagine us. See how manipulative he is, though? And how good at it he is? And twisting the argument and making it about a libertarian values and a libertarian kind of idea that if I want to live my life, you can live your life. Yeah, you can, but not when you're responsible for other people. Even if you want to do drugs and whatever and swing and whatever else, fine, but not with kids. If you're willing to face the consequences, fine, but not with kids. Try to do them in a way that doesn't hurt other people. But this has been like the history of my channel. Like, how dare you judge Rodney Reed? How dare you judge Julius Jones? How dare you judge Amanda Knox? Yeah, call me old-fashioned. I think murdering people is wrong. Somehow this whole country has lost its moral compass. And the bar for values is so low for basic human value, decent values. I mean, I just assumed that was like just a basic that murdering is wrong. I just thought that was a basic. Oh, another one. Damien Echols, I'm hurting his feelings. Give me a break. That guy, pled guilty to killing 3 kids, and I'm hurting his feelings.
Otherwise, have at it, man. Have at it. The thing with streaming for me is like I have to be in the right mood, because I spend a lot of my days like kind of really just fucking annoyed or sad or like mentally taxed, because you deal with this shit. Life is not normal right now. You had fun until I started going off the rails. Well, then leave. Go away. You got less and less entertaining. Bye. Why would you watch if it's not funny, not entertaining? Go. Shoo. Go concern yourself with something important to you. So weird. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I never understood, like, I've said this a billion times. I don't understand why anybody watches like these live stream shows that I do or anyone does, because I find most of them to be wholly unentertaining. especially other.
Right. See, all your audiences were just suckers. You didn't provide anything. You knew you didn't provide anything of real value. You just looked at them all as suckers and marks.
Other people's. Oh my God. I mean, I'm like kind of full of myself. So I think mine are good. But even mine, I'm like, why would anybody sit around watching? But some of these shows that you guys watch, holy shit. But yeah, if you're not being entertained, fucking leave. Go away. What a weirdo. It's so strange. Like, no.
But he knows his audience is bored and needs connection. And he exploits all of that. All of that. He's a master manipulator. Even Aaron said, who lived there. And granted, he's a reliable narrator, but I think he said he's a monster inside. There's a monster. I think he used a different word. So excuse me if I'm wrong. He might have used extremely dark. But inside that likable, go along to get along exterior is a really dark, disturbed man with a skewed, to use his word, view of the world and other people. And he uses these talents he has to manipulate court cases the same way he manipulates people and he gets off on it to make the guilty people look innocent and to gather a whole bunch of sometimes gullible, sometimes other people with personality disorders. Some of them, his audience are disturbed and deranged and morally bankrupt themselves. Other of them are just marks, are just gullible marks who don't see it. And he loves the power of just manipulating them and having them and turning something that's obviously one way into another way. So reversing everything. So now Karen Reed's the victim, not John O'Keefe. And there's these personalities on both sides. You got to really be on your toes. Because for a lot of people, the message is secondary to the manipulation and the power and control. There's a lot of mini Charles Manson cult leaders out there looking for their own flock on YouTube, especially in true crime.
No, you have to do the show the way I want, and you have to live the way I want and expect, and you can't surprise me. You can't do any of that. Because if you surprise me, then what am I going to do? I'm going to drop these toothpicks and count them all at once. There's 431. It's 431 toothpicks. I'm going to go rub my Thomas the Train. Good God. Stop bothering yourself about other people's lives. Jesus Christ.
We're all such square idiots. His beloved audience who gave him $1 million in super chats. They're all idiots and marks and people with no lives. And he just laughs at them as he's just raking in the money with bullshit. He loves it. Loves it. That's really what he thinks. I mean, I think that these people tell the truth sometimes. That's how he feels about his audience. Counting the checks in their cereal. So dumb, they'll believe anything he tells them. And who's the first person to put up Aiden Carney? Nick Rekieta. And isn't it interesting that Johnny Depp is still considered a wife beater in the UK with all his money? Somehow, strangely, he couldn't reverse that decision. The court that let in the most evidence, he can't reverse that decision. And Hollywood doesn't want to work with him. Isn't that odd? Hollywood doesn't want him back after he's cleared his name. I grew up with a parent in that business. I know that business. And I had heard about Johnny Depp. His reputation preceded him. So this was no surprise to me. This stuff when these allegations came out. But to everyone else, he's Captain Sparrow. He's the guy on the screen. It's the same idea here with Nick Rekieta. The image you see on YouTube is not the reality. And sometimes the darker the person, the better they are at wearing the mask.
Anyway, either take value from what I do or don't. It's so, but don't ask me to like live some way that you've misperceived on your own. Like, no, there's a moral set that I have that I don't think is living up to based on this limited subset of information that I have about him. Someone took a picture somewhere. This must be what it means. God, how pathetic. How just absolutely absurdly sad that is. You came to see if I started to pull myself out of my spiral. I haven't. I'm spiraling tremendously. So go away. Come check back in a year or two.
Yeah, he's laughing. His kids, he hasn't seen his kids since May, and he's laughing. He's got a drug test that he calls terrifying, and he's still laughing and entertaining his dumb pencil counting, cereal counting, bored, gullible followers.
Go away. No offense, but there's never any Nick spotted out with his wife posts. Maybe she doesn't want to be online. But actually, if you have been following, yeah, they found her. She was there too. Big gasp. Oh my God, it made news. That's how bored you people are. It made news that we went out. We went to an activity. No. They can't go to an activity. They have to sit inside and eat cereal.
Yeah, they have to sit inside and get their kids back. They have 5 kids to take care of. How dare they go out to an activity when they have three felony charges against them and their kids are under the care of the state? How dare they go out? What an absurd thing for people to think that maybe you'd want your kids back, or maybe you'd be investigating, right? Somehow he's not investigating this puzzling drug test hair result. Isn't that interesting? He's not out looking day and night for an answer with all the lawyers he knows and all the lawyers he knows with experience in this kind of thing, not calling them up, going from one to another, going to the lab. How could this be true? Banging on the window, taking any drug test he has to take, anything to get his kids back. No, it's us. We're the problem. Us dumb pencil pushers. We're the problem. We're so bored and stupid and gullible, emptying our wallets, give him money.
Count the squares on the checks mix like I do. You gotta calm down there, homie. Are you good? You gotta calm down. Like it's not your job to police everybody else's lives. It really isn't. Again, I don't police yours. I don't care what you do. You're boring, I can tell, but that's fine. I can't wait.
Yeah, he's boring because he doesn't abuse his kids and move in a couple and let his kids wear maybe the same clothes for 3 or 4 days at a time. He's boring. How dare we police him? No one's policing you. Strangely, when we hear about children suffering, we worry. We worry about the welfare of children. How crazy of us. How crazy of us to not want fellow human beings, little ones who are helpless and rely on your care to not be abused. How crazy of us. How demanding we are that we need to police other people, quote unquote police, by asking questions while you live stream while your children are still missing. How crazy of us. What a piece of trash this guy is.
Once you do whatever you're gonna do, and like they go and they find your notebooks or whatever, and I get to like see the fan fiction that you've written about my life on your like wide rolled paper or whatever in chalk, like it's gonna be funny. It's gonna be disturbing because like, why are you doing this? You're a liar who's using the Bible. Well, good. I'm with every priest and pastor in existence. Perfect. We're all the same.
Right. He's like, I got company. I'm a liar. I know I'm a liar. You're just so boring. All my fans who write fan fiction about me. How pathetic you are. You're so pathetic. My fans are so pathetic.
Now I'm not using the Bible at all. Again, I've never tried to justify a single thing that I do. I just live. And it's
Did we not just hear the biggest justification that he can live the way he wants and that we shouldn't judge him? Did we not just hear that 2 seconds ago? And that we are really the bad people. We're the bad people who judge him, who worry about his children's welfare and don't want children to suffer. We're the horrible, terrible, pitiable people who don't live this exciting life that he does, holing up in your bedroom with your wife and your mistress, doing line after line while your kids starve in the next room and remain unbathed and wearing the same clothes for 3 or 4 days at a time and giving drugs to your favorite of them, their favorite daughter. God, we live such boring, mundane lives that we don't know the thrill of letting your children go unfed. Feeding them drugs. You guys you haven't lived until you've fed your daughter drugs. Let them go unwashed. You haven't lived.
Makes people like you very angry. Gundam Enthusiast says, awesome story, Nick. Always love the Bible. Does it have anything to say about giving cocaine to 9-year-olds asking for a friend? No, it doesn't. Shockingly, the Bible's pretty silent on it. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it, though. Not a good plan. I love that.
Yeah, it didn't do you any favors, right? It's the closest thing you'll get to an admission. He doesn't recommend it because once they take your hair, they knock down your door, they take your child's hair, you're up Schitt's Creek.
That's the meta. That's very funny, that you guys think that's one, what happened, or two, that's funny at all. But again, that's on you. Remember that whole thing I was saying about fan fictions and being judgmental or whatever? Yeah. None of that happened. But you can write the stories in your book.
Right. It's all a big imagination. It's all a big imagination of the Minnesota law enforcement and the Child Protective Services, whatever they call them in Minnesota, something else, but it's the essence of that. It's all their imagination. If Nick, the cult leader, says it's not happening, it's not happening. And if you push and don't believe him, then you're a pencil counting, fan fiction writing dope. You're the dope, not the people that believe him and say, yeah, like that host that had him on. Yeah, I thought that was strange. Why aren't you in shackles? Yeah, he was in shackles. So just be very, very wary of these characters. As my dad used to say, charm is the enemy of character. that is what I have for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody.